slideshow, and he's gonna present some history. And the panel, including the panel and the audience, if you want to make brief comments, if you see something on the slideshow that you want to make a brief comment, please do, because it's going to be a slideshow with the history, and there's going to be some pictures that one picture for sure that we don't know about. So here's Richard now.
All right. First of all, Karen and I was talking before this. Said if we ever give the microphone to that panel, it's going to take 45 minutes. We've got 5 minutes each. Well, we're now at 54 minutes. All right. I'm a history geek, or whatever you want to call it. So this was a lot of fun. I dove into that book that was about 6 inches thick, and had somebody help me pull it apart. And started going through it, and it's like, we got to talk about some of this stuff here. So that's familiar. It's scarf history. Yeah. That's the list of owners, and Karen got this from the Register of Deeds, is that correct? So some of the numbers, when I was actually going through some of the history of the numbers, the years might be off by a year, which I think that would kind of make sense sometimes. But that's kind of a basic rundown of the owners.
Richard?
Yes?
I'll talk loud, but anyway, Paul always claimed that they could never get rid of me as an employee, so they just have to sell it to somebody else. Yeah, that was right.
Yeah, there you go. This picture actually has, it is the 1914 Meade County Fair. And the old Sturgis Livestock building was originally the Sturgis Exhibit building from the fairgrounds, pictured to the right. So if you look to the right, you can barely see it on the edge of the picture.
It's round.
It was kind of a round, clear to the right. More clear to the right, there, right almost on the edge. That was, this picture this is from Matapaha, Land of the Pioneer, in 1914 Sturgis Fair. So it had been there at least 28 years when it was moved to the sale barn location. Now this picture, there's a little bit of delay in this, I'm not sure why. There we go. The original founders of the livestock business was Max, I'm going to murder these names, I know I am. Chef Bill Anderson, Russ Bowden, Tommy Thompson, and Jess. I'm going to try it. Tommy Thompson and Max Chef met with the Sturgis Chamber of Commerce in 1944 about the possibility of opening a livestock auction market here. The Meade County Commission donated that building to the livestock business. They then bought the livestock market in Whitewood, closed it, and the yards were hauled from there for the Sturgis facility. Okay, and then that's a couple of ads from the original sale was August 15th of 44. And then it looks like maybe by October, they moved it to Wednesday, went from Tuesday to Wednesday. So, this next picture, okay, that's an aerial view of it from, in 1945. There's a pavilion that was moved there from the Meade County, from the fairgrounds. There we go. This one is, if you notice on the right-hand side there, whoops, let me just, I think I hit the wrong button on here. And it just exited out of my program.
Paul Schultz is your computer expert, we'll fix it.
Yeah. Anyway, the image on the side there talked about in 1948 they had sales of almost $8 million. So you got to figure that was 4 years in. $8 million would have been a lot of money in 48. A lot of
Just this morning, there was 500 and some pound heifer calves sold for $1,800 a piece, $3.30 some a pound. We
Right.
sold lots of heifer calves back in '85 for 50 cents a pound,
We
60
lost,
cents a pound.
we lost our slideshow.
You one of the kids.
There we go. Now, this picture is a bit of a mystery, but I kind of, well, a couple of things I kind of pieced together. I'm wondering if there was a remodel in 1957 and a new lobby and cafe was constructed. So I was wondering if there might be anybody in the crowd that can either confirm or not.
Confirm or deny.
Yeah, this, my speculation on that. But yeah, so that, it's obviously there's something added on to the front there that wasn't, you're onto the front of the pavilion, so.
Richard, take a look at, I mean, do you see a pickup there at all?
Right, yeah, and that's kind of what we
It's
need.
all cars.
It is all cars, so it's some kind of an open house.
Yeah.
So that's what that's my speculation on that. In 1961, they mentioned this, Harley Roth was killed in an airplane accident. So son Jim Roth ran the business until '72. Under the management of Jim Roth, an expansion and remodel program took place in 1966, including a 15 by 52 foot scale comprised the entire floor of the ring, an electronic weight divider above the auction block, displaying the head count, average weight, and total weight. This was the second of its kind in the nation at the time. An added feature included a mural dedicated to the finest people in America, the cattlemen, on the north wall of the auction pavilion. That was in that previous picture. The pavilion there in the top right seated 400 people. I think that'd be a good church service. The pneumatic tube system relayed lot tickets from the west gate of the ring to the auction block, and another set of weight tickets from the auction block to the central office. A 70-foot enclosed catwalk connected the pavilion and the yards. The auction employed 40 people at that time, and in that year, in '67, over $200 million crossed the counter. So that's still, that just seems like a lot of money now. Okay, this was a poster that Karen sent to me. The only thing, I'm not sure the date on this poster, but Dale Maddox, Charlie Hawks is pictured here. They shared the auctioneer's microphone, and Dale eventually became owner in '73.
Ollie, do you know when this was taken?
No. When, it has a date up there when we moved to Sturgis. Wasn't that 66?
I think so.
And I'm guessing that was, it was 66.
I wanted to read this because I thought it was interesting. This was Laurel. I found an article that, I think this was from the 44th, when the, some kind of 44th celebration or year that you had written this. It was a lifelong dream of Paul's to own a sale barn, even though I really didn't know about it. We had come to the Black Hills to deliver racehorses from our Montana ranch to Rapid City. On our way back, we stopped at a real estate office in Bellevue to shop, as usual, for ranches. The subject of livestock market was discussed. Then within an hour, we had driven back to Sturgis. It happened to be sale day. So we looked around a little, and within 20 minutes, Paul said, "I want it." Is that true?
Absolutely true.
Yeah, there you go.
We had it by that night.
Yeah, yep. I just laughed and said, when did this all come about? And that's when I learned about the lifelong dream. We called the real estate office back and set a meeting for that afternoon and wrote up a contract that evening and basically purchased it by the next day. Within 20 days, we had gone to Montana, finished our harvesting, sold our cattle, horses, and farm machinery, packed and headed for our new adventure, Sturgis. You guys had you did a lot in 20 days. That was miraculous.
Richard, can I say something?
Yep, go ahead.
About Laurel. One year, somebody was on Easter week, and somebody was bringing in a couple potloads of cow-calf pear. And this was, they brought them in on a Sunday, snowing, flakes big as a silver dollar, and getting deep. And anyway, the crew, they were kind of bummed because, you know, it was Easter Sunday, and we gotta be sorting pears out there for a couple days, and snowing, and nice, no wind, with snowing, and the snow was getting deep. And Laurel, the goodness of her heart, she went and got a turkey and fixed it over at the buffet just so we had Easter dinner.
Okay, yeah, this is kind of a, sure some of you remember this one.
Oh, yeah.
I'll probably have maybe Karen or any of you guys want to interject on this. I'm sure there's some stories on this one.
Go ahead, whoever wants to interject, go ahead, this is one the cattle got, yeah.
That was that short lady you had tied to a tree somewhere.
Jody,
Yeah.
you remember?
No, yeah, Dana was involved with this a lot.
You're gonna have to tell me to shut up, Karen, but this
Uh,
kind of reminds me, one year we had a cow get out on sale day, and so Dana and I, we was riding horseback, and the cow's headed down Junction Avenue. So we bail in, get out, and we're running horseback down the pavement down there, trying to catch this cow. She finally did elude us, she got away, got out of town. Anyway, Dana and I were riding down the street, ropes drawn and ready, we find this cow, and people were coming by and say, well, it's on this street, it's on this street. And this little old lady, she come out of her house, and she's out there like this, and wobbling around, and we go by, and she says, oh, I haven't seen this since the 1940s.
No, that was a rodeo bull.
So yeah, this one is, yeah, that's when it was,
That was
it
a
was
change
sold.
of ownership,
Yeah, change
yeah.
of ownership, yeah. Yeah,
Tell them who they are, Laurel. I mean, go ahead and tell who they are.
yeah, it was, go ahead.
Richard and Ida May, and Paul and Laurel, and Jack and Betty Smink, that's when they changed ownership, and Paul and Laurel got it. And on the other side is Billy Deverley, he was an icon, and his wife Shirley. He was the yard foreman for lots of years.
That says 40 years of service there, yeah.
20 days before that, I'm trying to get this deal done, so I offered Smink and Orwick $35,000 of silver. And they thought I must be some mafia guy, they just run like this. I had to take it all the way to Billings, Montana, and bring back a fiat check. They wanted that check rather than the silver. Look what they'd have had today.
Yeah, sure enough. There on the left-hand side, there was for a short time, there was a good, this is, I want to put down there because it kind of showed the connection between the sale barn and our community. Because for a short time, they had a courtesy shuttle
Yep.
to take the ranchers downtown, and then on the right-hand side, I had to ask, we were going through this, I had to ask Karen, I said, so what is selling livestock early? I mean, what is this? And it had, during times of drought. So that's just kind of the ups and downs of the market there. Then there was this little incident. A semi-truck tipped a guy wire causing a pole to topple and ruptured a transformer containing PCB. So there was all kinds of this cattle in the street. Yeah, that had to kind of.
That shut down the sale for a while.
You did?
I guess that's part of the article that I pulled some information off of. That's where I kinda got the information about some of the beginnings there, so, then this is, I think, we're coming up to the last one. Oh, yeah, that's the sale, from Paul and Laurel to Walt Ridley, is that right?
Yep.
All right, so, I read through that letter on the left, I kinda wanted to put that up there. Eventually, this will become a video and people will be able to read through all that stuff if they go through the video, if they pause it, whatever, so that's kinda wanna put that up there, because it was a nice letter. It was obvious it was a tough thing you guys did, but it's obvious you guys were very family, everything was just, which that's this
Still on.
next one. There's the horse sale. Anybody wanna talk about, well, I guess you kinda already talked about the horse sale, so I'm not sure we need to mention much more about that, but there was, I guess, some pretty spectacular horse sales there over the years, so,
Never a bad check on cattle, only one.
whoops, I went too far.
Never a bad check on cattle, only one. The bad checks on horse sales, we had to lock the tack rooms, we had to collect the bad checks. When a rancher leads his cows and gets onto a horse, he's a different man.
All right,
Okay, Jerry?
Well, I just
Here,
gonna say,
wait a minute.
hadn't been mentioned
Yeah,
here,
let's
but I
use the
worked a
microphone.
lot of Saturdays. I worked a lot of Saturday sales in the fall. We sold calves. You got a list in the morning from Jim of the order. And I'll tell you what, if the order wasn't followed, the phone would ring and he'd say, what the hell's going on? I'd say, well, cattle aren't in yet, they're not all in, so we had, but I think there's around 8 or 9 sales in the fall every year. Some of the best prices ever, some of the best cattle ever, and it worked real well.
Thank you, Jerry.
okay, this was, the last sale day.
What's the date on that, Richard?
It was in '02, you know what? Shoot, I clipped out all of the dates at the top of the newspapers. It was in 2002. Okay, and on the left, this was out of the Argus Leader. So this was what they had wrote. Now, some of you might have a different opinion of this, but I'm gonna read what they wrote and then we can have a conversation about it. It's worth more to develop in the soaring Black Hills market than it is to ranchers in an up and down market. It's a complex blend of changing times and an economy based more on tourism than cows. According to them, the Sturgis Livestock Exchange at the time was solvent. The location had become an issue due to congestion on sale days as well. Outside of the economic impact, there is a cultural loss when a sale barn closes. Livestock barns are centers of coffee and conversation as well as commerce. During the last sale at Sturgis, those people crowded into the auctions, restaurant, Ranch House Cafe for the $4.50 roast beef special and coffee. You can't get that anymore, can you? Conversations range from memories about the exchange to the late snow to the profit of the meatpacking giant IBP. And then it's the people, the loyal ranchers, and the loyal workers, that's the hardest part about all of this, said co-owner Kathy McPherson. So that was what, the article there on the right is an excellent article done by the Rapid City Journal. It really talks more about the people. I've got a printout over here. I can take time to read what's on there on the screen now, or we can move on. I guess that's, yeah, I think I'm gonna move on, because you'll be able to read that when it comes down to the video. So, a really, really nice article, like I said, the Journal did, that just talked about different people over the years, and, actually, I think Tommy Thompson, the son or grandson of one of the original starters, is mentioned in there several times, and it's the Billy, what's his last name? Yeah, was mentioned in there several times, and his wife was interviewed and all of that, so.
Maybe if you could hold your thoughts till the very end about how Sturgis Livestock affected when it closed, how it affected the Sturgis, the town of Sturgis. We could finish up with this slideshow and Brad's got, and then at the very end, we could like to have your thoughts on how you thought it affected the town of Sturgis at the very end of the slideshow.
Okay, you wanna talk about that a little bit, or you wanna move on?
Oh, just briefly, we had a reunion, I think it was in 2008, and down at the Vets Club, and there was a incredible turnout. I had everybody that was there at all sign the book and everything, and then Laurel had one, and Paul out to their ranch. And there's a lot of people in memory of, and I'm not gonna go through them, you can look at the book, but since that time, since I made that book, there's been a lot of people that have passed, since that time, and that was in 2008. I think there was like 150 people at the Vets Club, and we had a good time and had to have drivers out of town. So, go ahead, Richard, you and Brad.
You want that map out front, is Brad
What we're
gonna?
gonna do, I think what we can do is, Brad's gonna take us through a sale day. Because,
Probably the biggest thing, when I got to putting this together, and it's not plumb to scale, it's pretty close. But I got to look at that, and I thought, man, how the hell did we ever keep things up around there? A lot of them pens had hydrants, and back in the day, a lot of it was wood fences, and like Jody said, and train come by, and bus corrals, and you always had plenty of things to do. You was getting ready for the next sale, and fixing fence, and haying. It makes you wonder, after looking at this, how did we ever keep up? And I guess I really don't know. We got to Paul when he come in, we got to put pipe in. That made quite a difference. In fact, my father-in-law, he was always talking about, I don't know why you're doing all that. He said, someday this sale barn won't be here anymore. And kind of figured, well, it needed to be done. So we just kept going till the day the deal was done, I guess. But that helped a lot. And then we switched over. It got to the point where used to be a lot of people who would haul in square bales. We used to put up a lot of hay, square bales, haul in ourselves.
40,000 one year.
Yeah. And then it kind of got to be where it was getting hard to have enough square bales, and you had so much money in them. And so we kind of got switching over the yards and putting in round bale feeders. Before it was all over with, we didn't have any square bales. When finally shut the doors, there were no square bale feeders. It was all round bales. But anyway, this was the yards.
wanna go to the pictures? Okay.
Yeah, might as well.
Do people understand where the parking lot is? Can they tell on the back picture where the parking lot and where you unloaded and?
Yeah, we had three
Yeah.
truck chutes, semi-truck chutes. And then there used to be back in, if Bill was here, he could tell you, but back in the day, there used to be loadout chutes on the north end, and I think the EPA and that got involved in it, and that had to be shut down. So we had them 3 truck chutes, and then we had drive-through trailer chute. It was over on the west side, and I can't reach, over here somewhere. Anyway, that drive-through chute really made a difference. A lot of people weren't used to backing the trailer up, so the drive-through chute really worked good. Probably one of the biggest problems we had through the years was the cattle deal. The ranchers kind of outgrew the sale barn. Finally got so, we could capacity, Paul, 4,000 head, it was full. And you'd get to them sales where, you'd have more than that, and you had cattle unload, but you had an empty pen and sell some cattle to go to the other side, yard back, so that you could pen some more cattle. And pretty soon, they're running out of pens for yard back, and we're running out of pens for penning things, and so that was kind of capacity. But we made it work. All these pens over, from here over, this is yard back. This is the pens that got used after the sale. And the bigger sales, they would be following us over in these other pens. Wherever we had an empty pen, they would be coming with cattle.
Because we would mix calves with cows
Yeah,
too.
yes.
Easier to store.
So, yeah, so yard back, they might be there till noon the next day, because the only way we could find enough pens is they'd mix calves with cows after the sale, and then when the sale's over with, they had to go sort through all this stuff and pull calves off of cows or yearlings off of calves, or, so it was a pretty dedicated crew. You didn't see that, still don't see that other places. That's all I'm gonna say about that, but.
All right, so,
This is unloading chutes. Well, that's Paul right there. He's either checking cattle in or they're going out. I don't know which. This is some of the yards. This is right down from the load in chutes, load out chutes. Back when we was feeding square bales then, but yeah, sorting cattle.
there you go.
Okay, and that's the Aldigo Alley. I guess we call it the Aldigo Alley. Sometimes if we, like in the fall runs, instead of taking cattle to the sorting alley, and we tried in the fall, we tried to at least sex the cattle out in the pens before they would go to the sorting alley. But this alley here, we call it the Aldigo Alley, simply because some of the bigger bunches are cattle that didn't have too many sorts on them. We'd try and sort them out in the alleys and into the pens out there, so when we got ready to go, they didn't have to go to the sorting alley. We just take them up that alley, avoid a little traffic and take some of the, and we'd always keep the sorting alley full too, but it's what worked, trying to keep things going, I guess. I'm assuming probably a potload of calves. It depends on the year too. Some years you could kind of get by with mixing colors, mixing somewhat breeds. Sometimes when the buyers get more picky, you'd have to sort for colors. If you had one have a frozen ear or something, you had to pull it off. It just depended on the year. How the market would have to do a lot with it. Pretty good crowd.
There's the 400 seat pavilion. Oh, there's must be a horse sale.
Yeah, horse sale. We used to, I gotta tell you a little story here. I'm full of stories, but back in the day, we had them horse sales, and a lot of people want to bring them in. There's Dusty. A lot of people bring them in. Well, they didn't want to stick around. Usually there's a reason they didn't want to ride going horse sale. Dana and I, Thompson, we rode a lot of them through. And we was pretty naive, I guess I should call it. Maybe just plumb stupid. I don't know. But people bring them in and got so, Dana and I, if they want them rode through, just ask them, you know, what was wrong? Did he buck? Was he crippled? What was the thing? And they, most of the time, they'd lie to you anyway. But we'd ride them through, Dana and I'd ride them through for a $10 bill. We rode a lot of horses through. And I finally got to the point you just throw a saddle on them, cinch them up tight, and kick them in the side with one of the stirrups and see what they done. Yeah. And then, but the thing of it was, and I'll never forget this, and this is how stupid Dana and I were. We'd ride through 6 or 8 horses a piece for $60, $80 a piece, and after the sales were with, him and I'd buy the beer for everybody. Yeah, good for us. Yeah. But anyway.
So now we're heading in after the sale, I think, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Richard. Okay, that's South Yard back. That's back when the elevator was still there.
And that's one thing I was telling somebody this morning. I said I would probably be gone from this earth by now if that's the way it was, but Bill Demerly always talked about loading them railroad cars all night, and then the next day, and I would have just loved to have been around and seen that. Never was. And just more cattle probably for the sale.
There's a dog that sired the world champion cow dog.
Oh.
But now I own the dog that sired 2 last year's world champion cow dogs. Let's go back to 1999.
We, here I'm getting carried away again. We had for a little while, I don't know what the deal was, Philip was having hog sales before, there's still some hogs in the country, and they didn't sell them that summer, so we was selling hogs one summer at the sale barn. Well, nobody knew what we was doing, selling hogs, and they'd crawl from one pen to the next. But anyway, there was a truck driver, and he hauled strictly for Hobbs. Well, anyway, Hobbs was in there one day and bought a bunch of fat pigs ready to go to kill. And so this guy never hauled hogs, and we'd never loaded hogs. So he comes in, and we're trying to get these, and it was hot. Hogs wasn't wanting to load. It took us about 3 hours, and we finally got them going down in the belly of the truck. Well, looked out there after 3 hours, and here there ain't any hogs in the belly of the truck. We'd forgot to shut his side door. So they'd come in, and they was going out as fast as they was going in, and I thought that guy was going to sit down and bawl.
Anybody want to talk about these 2 pictures? That's the
Well, that's John.
Don was talking about.
Story.
Yeah. I tried to go to it while he was talking, but I couldn't get there, so.
Brad,
There's-
Brad, you got a volunteer back here.
If somebody wants to say something.
Bernie.
Yes, that calf ended up in my house.
Did you buy him? Is that what?
Dad did.
Your dad did? I'll bet your dad laughed about that. He probably never even took the dress off, huh?
Took a while.
Yeah?
It was kind of an aerial view that we.
Yeah, now that was, I was kind of trying to put a year to it. Well, in the back of the chutes, that must be in the later years because the chutes are pipe. So that must have been in the, what, 90s, Paul? Somewhere in there.
You might want to jump in there for this, Karen.
This is just some of the office people. That's Mildred Bruner, and I see she's here today. You want to stand up, Mildred? You worked how many years there?
25 years. I started with Maddox, Mrs. Maddox hired me, and in about 3 months later, they sold it to Snake and Norway. And then I went through all the,
Yeah.
I ended with the last ones, the last day of the sale. And all we had was a couple of.
I'm not sure
You're standing in front of
who is, that's Donna. Donna worked at Sturgis Livestock in St. Ange. You want to stand up and say how many years you did?
About 13 years.
And Laura. Okay, you can go on, Richard.
Hey, Karen, the Rolodexes on that picture, the amount of I just wanted to say, what a change in the way you do business now. Look at the Rolodexes they got there, and how many people you have to keep track of.
Yeah. Had to look up liens on people, and yep, that was a microfiche. It's all changed. Yep. And that was Laurel made us all T-shirts for Christmas. And that is Jim Roth and Dale and Margaret Maddox and Charlie Hawks and Richard and Ida Mae Orwick and Jack and Betty Smink. There's Mildred again, and I'm not, and Tuffy Horton, he's passed away, but I'm not sure who that other lady is. Brad and
My uncle.
and your Uncle Harold.
That's back at Orla's head.
And Cordovi was an office help. This is, I guess, just what you think.
Yeah, so there's some opinions there.
Yeah, just some opinions. This is years of dedication. That was Billy Gemmerly, 46 years. Levon Erickson, who you couldn't clone her if you had the ability to, because she was one of a kind and she was an awesome lady. And she was 30 years, and Paul and I, at that time, he was an auctioneer for 20 years, and that was back, and I was there 26 years. And Ray Heipel, and Brad Severson, how long was you there? 18 years. And Dennis Zelfer. Is Dennis here? No?
I
Okay.
couldn't get him.
You couldn't get him? Okay. And who can tell me who that is? Little Joe, yep. He parked cars. And if he was in the wrong place, he'd tell you.
Keep going.
Yeah. Oh, well, before we go on the promotions, everybody stand up here who worked at Sturgis Livestock, because I know that I see in the background.
Amazing.
And then, you want the microphone, you want me to bring it around so you can tell who you are? Can you say who you are?
Katie Taylor. Jerry Maynard from Underwood.
Marla Reedy from up Slim Butte. Darla Hershey, Sturgis.
Bernie Floyd.
I'm Gail Davis Dillon. I'm from Sturgis.
Galen Uniworth.
And thank you, thank you. And here's just promotions of Sturgis Livestock. Go.
You're doing good.
Paul, you can interject on that, because that's your team, isn't it?
Oh, I used to be crazy fun with teams. And, when I was young, I used to have a little laundry streak, they told me. So one time, I was trying to scare the hell out of Brad and somebody else. We went around Fort Meade, and I pretended like the horses were running away. And, anyway, there was Brad, me, and Dana, and I forget who else, and maybe a 30-pack of Bud Light or something that had 2 left in it. And we come down Fort Meade, down the back road, and I was gonna scare the hell out of the guys, because I'd gone down there before, and I'd opened the gate beside the cattle guard. And we're running away and running away. And the boys are panicking, trying to get the lines, trying to stop these horses, because we're gonna end up in the cattle guard and kill everybody. So, just before I get to the cattle guard, I whipped down in the ditch to go through that open gate. No, the ride was too rough, and it popped me out of the seat, and the wagon ran over me. Remember that,
You can go on, Richard.
Brad? I never got hurt, but I was sure sore.
These are just some.
Karen,
Uh-huh.
Jim Roth, and maybe Gail can tell this better, but Jim Roth bought this huge old longhorn steer, and he had my dad ride that thing in parades with Gail.
I've seen a picture.
I saw pictures, yep.
Somewhere I've seen them.
Yeah, she could probably talk about it better, but he used to ride the.
Yeah, he used to be he used to ride the oxen with like a Snapple bit in it, and then he had like an old hat. I still have his hat. And he had a gun, and then he just rode him in the auctions, and somebody hauled him around. And then later on, they went to set ponies with like a little Conestoga wagon type thing. But Susan Roth sent us a really good picture of Dad downtown in Rapid City, which would be nice to add to this.
Didn't he have that musket loader or something?
Oh, he had Grandpa Wood's gun.
Yeah, that he carried with him on that old steer. It was huge.
These are just sale bills and advertisement that went into a lot of, for the horse sales and the cattle sales and the bull sales.
That's the bull sales.
Yep. And that's,
The yellow sheets.
yep, that was mailed mailed out to all consigners. You had one when you got there, people that came to the sale barn?
Yeah, and I was looking for anywhere from weather forecasting to politics to, let's see, there's those four little things on the side there, but it's kind of, I obviously didn't read through all of them, but there's some, obviously had all the prices and stuff, but I kind of skipped over that. It was kind of some of the newsy stuff that I thought was interesting.
Everybody that
So-
looked at them about the beef checkoff, the only county in South Dakota that defeated it.
And then that's the, I think that might be, that's the last slide.
I would like to have either the panel and people in the crowd, would you please briefly speak about how this closing of Sturgis Livestock affected Sturgis, the town of Sturgis? Who would like to talk first?
I will.
Brad, why don't you come out here where the camera can see it?
I'm like Karen, I was there not as many years here, but a lot of years, and it was all a big family. And the thing I was pretty proud of us for the fact that when I was started at Sturgis, when the sale barn at Rapid City closed, and that's when you noticed when you were getting some smaller consigners, Holsteins, odds and ends and stuff, but I think we always treated them well too. It wasn't, we was never a sale barn when I was there that we went for the 500 to 1,000 head consigners. We was always there for the guy that had 20 or 50 or a potload, and I take a lot of pride in that.
You gotta go, somebody else go, you wanna go?
No, I'm fine. To me, and I think Daryl talked about it, but you could kind of see that, and it was gonna happen eventually. I remember the day that I quit the sale barn, me and another guy. But anyway, I'd been down and talked to the banker because I had owed on some operating stuff and didn't know where I was headed with things, and went down and talked to the banker, and they said, well, it's gonna happen, whether you want it to or not, and it was gonna close, and I know it was gonna close, but boy, it was the start of things going to hell in this town. I better quit with that.
Hey, Dr. Ismay, I would like your opinion.
Yeah, well, you know, we had to change our business completely after the sale barn closed because, you know, people come to town either Wednesday or Saturday or whatever it was, and a lot of times they would buy vaccine. We sold a lot of stuff like that, and maybe bring something that needed vaccinated or worked on some way. And it just, you know, when I first came here in 1971, there was, 2 hardware stores, and Bob Saturday, I mean, there was regular stores in Sturgis. Yeah, Main Street, Sturgis. And now, I mean, after the sale barn closed, it went to tattoo parlors, you know, might have something to smoke, and that sort of a thing. So, I mean, it really, Sturgis changed totally once the sale barn closed. That was really the main town, the main industry in Sturgis. I want to tell you something else about Billy Timberley. We ended up buying his house, you know, we own that house now, and we own the land that the sale barn set on. And I remember one time, the story is, you probably heard the story, but a trucker came out there and he said, hurry up, Billy, get me these cows. So Billy said, well, where's your paperwork? You know, they had to have the bill of sale, grand clearance, all that kind of stuff, health papers. And the trucker said, well, you give me these cows or I'm gonna jerk you off that horse and kick the hell out of you. And Billy, he was always such a kind guy. And he said, well, you might get that done, but when it's all over, you still gotta have your papers. Still gotta, you might get it done, but when it's all over, you still gotta have your papers. Yeah, we had, and yeah, Billy was always such a good guy to work with. We're glad we have his house. I think I still see him in there once in a while.
Well, that was our pride and joy there. In fact, I think the only time I've ever bawled in public was the last day that they sold it. Offered $650,000 and they just said, no, worth much more. And it was too late. I mean, that was what, but it was a big part of her life, a huge part of her life. And had so many friends.
How many, Paul, how many cattle did we sell that first year you come? Of course, I realized we was in a drought field.
The average that we sold there was 80-some thousand head. And we had to add the horses in a couple of years to make it 100,000. We never did hit officially 100,000, but added the horses in, it was. Well, my attitude, things go on, things change. You can keep your memories, but you can't keep things the same. I mean, it maybe had to happen. Maybe would have gone broke if I'd have got it bought back that day. So you never know. But it was a wonderful part of the community.
Will call.
I told Paul, I told somebody this morning.
Up to 2:30 if that's possible.
I told somebody this morning, I said, you know, if that sale barn is still there, I'd probably still be there. I might have to have a
That's
walk.
just before the.
I know you would be.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let you leave.
Brad, well, they're talking about what it's done to the community, and of course, I agree with Doc. All you gotta do is look down Main Street and see what's going on. I mean, it's a 3-month town. Agriculture, Hungry Man's a dangerous one. It's still pretty neat. You think Sturgis Livestock's dead? Look at this crowd. There you go.
Danny's doing better today, he had a little bit of a stomach ache.
Okay, yeah, no, them guys pretty well said it all, but there's really no reason to come to Sturgis anymore. Business-wise, unless you need to pay your taxes or get your license, you know, as far as buying anything, you know, there ain't nothing here, no place to go.
I've just noticed here, it's hard to put a gooseneck on a motorcycle.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
I'm just gonna say that Sturgis Livestock was a big asset to Black Hills Park. It's only 50 miles from chute to chute. If we needed a certain grade of cow for the orders at the plant, I'd go to the loadout and I'd say, put the first 30 cows over by the loadout and had a truck all set there, we'd have them in the cooler by noon. So it was a big asset to the local industry, which we were at that time, the largest packing house in the area. So Sturgis Livestock, and being in the middle of the week too, was good logistics. So it was the place to, as far as I was concerned, Black Hills Pack was, and Sturgis Livestock Pack, thank you.
Daryl, the truck line, Beard's Trucking, they was always really good to work with.
Yep.
I mean, they were
Good people.
top notch.
Yep.
Anybody out in the crowd here that would like to give your thoughts on the effect of the closing of Sturgis Livestock? Karen, I did.
Well, I kind of grew up there, and I was the kid holding the door. I didn't do number 2 in that. He couldn't make it to the bathroom. We had to stop somewhere, and that was someplace that was private. So anyway, I think that getting rid of the sale barn at Sturgis, when I was a kid, you know, I was looking at that front lawn, and I learned how to fight there. I got in a lot of fights in that front lawn, and you know, it kind of gypped out the kids and my kids, you know. They don't have to, you know, they have to fight me now, but you know, it just kind of, growing up there, it was
Thank you.
it was a hard life, but it was good.
None of us were fat.
No, well, I am now, but
Not that
Laurel?
I was just gonna tell you something Dale Hansen told us about. Dale Hansen was, at some point, I don't know what his title was, the county state's attorney or something in Sturgis for the county for years. And I just remember one time when we were in there and he was telling us what the Sturgis Livestock business did for the town. He said even them, their appointments were full. People made doctor appointments, people bought groceries. They made appointments and shopped for their kids' clothes when there still was stores on Main Street. I just remember him telling what a great thing it was to have Sturgis Livestock there, because it was a family deal. When people come in, there was many people brought kids and like I said, did all their business in there. We did all of our business in there until some of the stores, you know, they got tired of selling out they had to get out of there for the rally. And so they moved their businesses, but I think it had to have a huge impact business-wise on about everybody in town to do business.
I would like
They
to,
wanna come up and look at the memorabilia before they leave.
I would like to thank everyone for coming, and we were a close-knit family, and I have enjoyed working at the sale barn all the time that I worked there, and I really appreciate, you have somebody back here?
Oh, you didn't mention too much about the Ranch House Cafe, but when I was a kid, I worked there. Bud Hobson, Bud and Estelle Hobson had the Ranch House Cafe. And of course, anywhere Bud went with a cafe, I had to be there. From Texas to Faith, South Dakota, to Ranch House, and to the Westerner. But we used to get some pretty rough help in there. And you had to be pretty quick on your feet to get your order, because these old gals they got them from, I don't know where they came from, but they would steal your orders to take to their customers, so you had to really be fast on your feet. But I just wonder how many people in here worked in the bay, in the ranch house.
There was a guy that, I won't mention names, but there was a guy that run the cafe for a while. And we was in there one morning, he'd make fresh caramel rolls. And so we'd go in, get things done, go in and have a cup of coffee and kind of get our marching orders early in the morning. And this guy, he was in there and he always smoked a cigar, and the ashes were about this long, and he just kneading that dough for them. And all of a sudden, the ashes dropped off in the dough, and he just kept on going.
I have nothing after that. There's memorabilia up here that several people have brought, something from Harley and Jim way back then, and clear up here, an aerial picture, and just what they used to give away. And Henry Carl's brought a sales bill from, I can't see the year, but it's from a cow, brought 18 cents. So that's been a while back. And Laurel's book and all the jackets up there. So thank you so much for coming, and thank you for participating, and this is a conclusion, right?